The end of 2024 fast approaching, and Google has now unveiled its list of the most trending searches that emerged throughout the year. It included a lot of interest in soccer and famous figures like Kate Middleton. Joining us now live for a recap is Hibak Ali, Google Canada Trends expert. Good to talk to you, Hibak, this morning. Really interesting going through this list here. Just on the top 10 trending searches alone, there was athletics, but a lot of labor news here, from the LCBO strike, Air Canada strike, Canada Post strike. People really wanted to know how things were going because these all had such an impact on people.
Absolutely. So like you mentioned, across our news and events category, we saw three key themes. So the first was sports with the UEFA Euro Cup, as well as Copa America. And then, the U.S. elections was a really big theme this year. But like you mentioned, provincial matters and issues closer to home really captivated Canadians. So there was the BC elections, the Jasper fire, and then all those labor disputes that you talked about. So the LCBO strike and the Air Canada strikes that happened earlier this year. And then, of course, the ongoing Canada Post strike. Canadians are really interested in following along and getting the updates as it's happening.
Yeah, it's always interesting to think what else, what Canadians are actually searching when they open up Google. I'm always curious to see what other people are searching. This is sort of helps find out. The interest in royals never ceases. And Kate Middleton on top, Hibak.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that, Canadians have diverse opinions about the British royal family, but Kate Middleton in particular really captivated us this year. And what's interesting here is that Kate actually stepped away from the public eye late last year, and it was her absence that really drove some of the curiosity, and maybe Canadians were taken by some of that online speculation. But apart from Kate, across our people category, we really saw a lot of those U.S. political heavyweights coming through. So Canadians searched for Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, JD Vance, and Tim Walz. So a lot of the important players in the U.S. election this year.
Yeah, I mean, in journalism, we talk about, the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why. And those searches, Hibak, I found really interesting as well, especially, in the what category, like what time is the solar eclipse? The eclipse kind of pops up here and there on your list here. A lot of people were sort of so focused on that event back in April, but those what questions really piqued my curiosity as well.
Yeah, and across our what category too, one of the things that we saw again is that the U.S. election. So it was a really important moment for Canadians this year to be following along and getting that information. Canadians asked questions like, what time is the presidential debate? And they also asked how many electoral votes are there, and lots of questions as well around the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East.
Yeah, and also, what does demure mean? That really captures, I think, so much of the year.
Yeah, it goes to show that Canadians are keeping up with the trends, or at least that we're trying to.
Yeah, the how questions as well, how this, how many electoral votes, how tall is Simone Biles, how long will the eclipse last? It really, when you take a look at what, there's so much curiosity out there, and you curate these lists kind of our curiosity here. How radically different, for example, was this year from last year, for example, Hibak?
It's a great question. The sports comes up every single year. It's something that we see year over year. And when we compare Canada versus the globe and what Canadians are searching for, we see a lot of similarities. I think the big difference this year is that on the Canadian list, we are actually not seeing Donald Trump appear as much as we did across our global lists. But Donald Trump was on our list last year. So I guess that's kind of where that difference is between 2023 and 2024. But that's not to say that Canadians aren't searching for Donald Trump or haven't been this year. He just didn't spike in interest as much as he did in years prior.
Yeah, and what I find interesting about this too, Hibak, is that Canadians are not only just searching for Canadian people, right? They're looking at international news, what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening, in Russia, what's the trending songs, what are the trending TV shows? It's a wide variety of searches and queries that Canadians are interested in. I mean, just on the entertainment side of things, I mean, all the new films and TV shows, everything that we were talking about, people were looking it up.
Yeah, and to put it into perspective, Canadians ask Google 17 million questions every hour. So Year in Search is just a really interesting way for us to look back at what the year was like.
That is fascinating numbers. Okay, Hibak Ali with Google Canada. Appreciate the look back at 2024. Thanks for joining us again this morning on Breakfast.